Epic unvaults old items all the time, but today I'm going to explain why there are some items that are never coming back. Let's start with number 15, Deadpool's mythic pistols. If you don't remember these, it's for a good reason. These were very bad. They were the mythic pistols that got added during the Deadpool season in chapter 2. It was on Deadpool's yacht, and if you took him down, you got the mythic pistols. They looked and sounded really cool, and the concept behind them was interesting. If you did damage, you actually got shields back in return. The problem is they did 21 damage per shot up close and 19 or even less at further ranges. It had pretty bad accuracy and did not pose a threat to anybody you were shooting at. But since it was a collab item, unless they plan to do another Deadpool collab for the third Deadpool movie, it's most likely never coming back. Next up is the glitched Fortnite items. If you guys remember back in Season X Chapter 1, there was a lot of craziness happening on the map. We had prop hunts going on in Paradise, taco time in Greasy, zombies at the Mega Mall. Pretty much every POI had just a unique, weird twist to it. Well, do you remember the soccer stadium that was to the left of Tilted Towers? That actually just got completely deleted and turned into some sort of pits. It was just kind of an open area, and there was these glitched consumables that were spread across there, and the way they worked is they looked like normal consumables, but they would just constantly be changing from like a mushroom to a hop rock to a pepper. It was a unique change, but it was pretty forgettable. Next up, one of the greatest shotguns to ever be in the game, the Purple Tack. And I'm not talking about the recent Purple Tack that you guys know from chapter 2 and even late chapter 1. I'm talking about the OG Purple Tack. Epic ended up actually updating the tactical shotgun and giving the purple and gold versions a new look and a new feel. But the OG Purple Tack was easily one of the most disgusting shotguns to exist. You could pretty much one pump people with this thing. It had like 180, 190 headshot damage. It was way better than the blue tack. It was a huge damage boost. You shot really fast with it. It was actually so much faster when you edited with the tactical shotgun as opposed to the pump. You could make quick edits with the tack way smoother than the pump, and that thing was disgusting. And for that reason, Epic is never bringing this one back because it would be way too broken in today's meta. Next up, we have the Stark rifle. This one was a very accurate long-range assault rifle that would spawn in the Stark Industries, one of the most iconic POIs in chapter 2. The rifle was actually extremely good. It had decent damage, 37 at blue rarity, all the way to 41 damage at legendary rarity, and it was extremely accurate as well with a quick first shot accuracy reset. The interesting thing about this rifle though, it was actually useful in close range combat because it actually shot more like an SMG when you hip fired, and it would shoot a lot slower when you ADS. We honestly haven't really seen many guns adopt this kind of style where they have like a different fire rate depending on if you're ADSing or if you're hip firing, and also different damage values as well. And you know, at this point, if you haven't seen Endgame, spoilers alert, Iron Man is no longer with us. So even if we have another Marvel collab, which is most likely going to happen because it hasn't stopped happening, we're most likely never going to see the Stark rifles return to the game. Next up, we have the mythic Amban sniper. This was the mythic sniper rifle that the Mandalorian carried around back in chapter 2 season 5. It was pretty unique because it actually had a lunge attack that you could use to knock players back and do some decent melee damage. You got it by defeating the Mandalorian NPC. This dude was a bit of a menace. The Mandalorian NPC for some reason had like unlimited range, and he was shooting players out of the sky. As they started their match, he would snipe them out of the sky. He had insane accuracy as well. Just like the Deadpool mythics though, this thing, you know, is most likely not coming back to the game unless they do another Mandalorian collab. And that doesn't seem to be likely because he was kind of one of the hunters that Jonesy recruited. So seeing him as a NPC in the game again is most likely not going to happen. Next up, we have Decoy grenades. This was in season 2, chapter 2. One of the best seasons of chapter 2 if you look back at Fortnite and how things played out. They were kind of forgettable, to be honest with you, because initially it was an interesting concept. It was very situational, and it was very easy to tell if someone was a decoy. These things could come back in theory, but realistically they were kind of choppy and not really up to the standards of quality that Epic was releasing. If they do come back, they would have to come back in a different way, maybe being able to control the decoys or being able to program them before you throw them so that they can actually be useful. Next up, one of my favorite OG items, the guided missile launcher. This was a rocket launcher that you could shoot, and once you shot it out, you actually switched your POV to the missile, and you could guide the missile and kind of fly around with it and go wherever you want, through builds, around corners, until you found a target to blow up. It was extremely fun to use this because you could actually self-rocket ride by shooting the missile right underneath your feet and then jumping up at the same time. Your character would land on the missile, and then you can control the missile and fly around, which created for some amazing trick shots and awesome moments. But it's been gone for over 4 years, and it has been completely removed from the game files, so it's safe to say that these will never return to the game. This next one's gonna hurt, but it's about traps. Traps, at least the way they were, is never coming back to the game. When traps were in the game, Fortnite was much different. Players didn't know really how to piece control properly. The average player could barely build a wall and a ramp. Nowadays, if traps were in the game, it would be way too powerful, especially at 150 damage. Even if you reduce the damage to 70, it's just basically free damage as soon as you get boxed up, which can happen very frequently, even against an average player. And now that zero build is kind of popping off, traps wouldn't really work in zero build. So I feel like Epic moving forward with their new item releases are going to be focusing on items that work both in zero build and in the normal mode. But I hope they prove me wrong. Speaking of traps, one trap that is definitely not coming back is the electric traps. If you guys remember, back then we didn't just have spike traps. We had electric floor traps, wall traps, like all kinds of different weird traps, and going through the trap menu was kind of a headache just to place down a single trap. The electric traps were for like ceilings and walls, and then the floor traps ended up becoming the spike traps, and you had different kind of traps for different wall types, so it was a bit clunky. So it hasn't been in the game for 4.5 years. It's safe to say it's officially gone. Next up, we have one that you might have forgotten about, the dual silence pistols. This one was kind of an obscure item in Fortnite's history, and they were in season 2 chapter 2, and this was during the Ghost versus Shadow storyline. There was an LTM, kind of like Team Rumble, called Spy Games. I personally really never played it. And if you played enough of it, you actually unlock tiers to get better items. And one of those items was the dual silence pistols. It wasn't a very popular mode, so many people didn't even get to try it out. They work just like you expect. You'd shoot 2 silenced pistols with a slightly slower fire rate than the normal dual pistols, and honestly, they didn't really do much damage, and they weren't very accurate either. Next up, we have swords in creative. I'm not talking about the mythic sword that was in the game. These were swords that were added to creative and then quickly removed. There was a lance, a small sword, a medium sword, a hammer, and a great sword. There was a way to glitch these into creative, but then Epic fixed the method, and we don't know if these are even in the files anymore. These are most likely items copied over from Save the World, which has a lot more melee weapons. All right, this one was kind of a pain because these could have been amazing, especially for mobility. The Mythic Spire Guardian boots. I mean, these things were so clunky. They were like these boots that you would throw on. It sounded cool on paper. You could jump and then double jump, and then on your third jump, you would jump even higher and redeploy. Unfortunately, you were gliding very slowly when you redeployed, so it was very easy to get beamed out of the sky. And the fact that you have to jump 3 times before you can redeploy made that ability not even useful. These will probably never come back because it would make no sense for the storyline. We're kind of over the whole Spire thing. Players avoided these mythics like the plague. But if you want something that's wearable and useful and popular, you should go check out Metal Umbrella, my clothing brand. We just dropped a new collection, and now we ship all over the world. You guys have been absolutely loving this new collection, and I see you guys showing love, so thank you so much. You can check it out at metalumbrella.com. Next up, the submachine gun. Right, so we have a lot of different SMGs in the game. This one is an OG submachine gun with its own different picture and look and stats. The current SMGs and even the old TAC SMG, it's not the same one. This one was from chapter 1. It was a decent SMG option that was in the game a bit in the early Fortnite days. Unfortunately though, it's not even in creative right now, and its files have been removed. The Spikey Stadium. Okay, so this one was exclusive to playground mode. When you threw it down, it created a gigantic stadium with spikes and impulse nades, and you can pretty much play a mini game of trying to shockwave people into spikes, and the goal was to be the last person standing. Once you played it a few times though, it kind of got old, and the fact that you had to go into playground mode to even start playing with it was kind of like out of the way. This last one might hurt, but I think the pump shotgun is most likely not coming back. This is probably one of the most popular weapon in Fortnite history. The satisfying feeling of getting a 1 pump. But in chapter 3, we now have the striker shotgun, which has replaced the pump shotgun and acts as the current pump. Epic has made adjustments to the stats of the striker. It feels like the old pump, but it's still a little bit off. Will it ever come back? There's a very small chance, but I'm leaning towards no. The only way I see the OG pump returning is if Fortnite ever drops like a classic mode for its like 5 or 10 year anniversary, something crazy like that. That's my list, guys. Check out this video where I went over the rarest cosmetics in Fortnite history.